In this video, I'm heading out to the remote Victorian mountains to discover what it was like for those gold digging pioneers. I look into the history of the men who searched for gold, and I want to camp like the prospectors did in the 1800s out on the wild Australian frontier. How did they get by? What equipment did they use? And what was daily life like for these men drawn to adventure and fortune? And I'll also try my own luck at a spot of fossicking. Many reports of people finding samples of gold begun ever since European settlement in Australia, mostly by shepherds, explorers and wanderers out in the bush. But it wasn't until 1851 when Australia's gold rush officially took off with the discovery of gold in Orange, New South Wales by Edward Hargreaves. Soon cities and towns were being emptied as men seeked the wild rivers of Australia to look for their fortune. Often their families would be carted in tow. Soon, sites of gold discovery turned into bustling townships, and soon enough, the more curious type set out to new creeks and rivers to try and find their own secret deposits in the more wild places. G'day everyone, we're out here for another video, and in this video it's all about the hunt for gold. Obviously we've got a rich history in Australia with gold hunting, so I've come out to a pretty historically known spot for gold mining back in the day, and I've brought my son with me, Ethan. He's come along for this trip. Usually when I do camps with the kids I put it on my other channel, Luke's Little Tribe, but it's school holidays so he wanted to come along. We're camping on a beautiful little creek in a valley in the mountains, and I want to camp how the old gold diggers and gold prospectors would have camped back in the day, and we will be panning for some gold as well. First things first though, before we go looking for gold, I just want to get camp set up, get that all ready, get some firewood, but it's time to set up a traditional oilskin kind of tarp tent. You to hold that for me like that. Hold that for me. Hold that like that. So I've been experimenting with lightweight tent frame options for when I go hiking and I want more of a shelter, but maybe there's nothing to tie off to like on a riverbed here. So it's basically 2 lightweight poles and some cotton guidelines with 4 pegs, and this creates a perfect ridge line to put the oil skin over, and it creates an old style tent. So I'm going to do that now. And so inside my tent I've got a sheepskin to lay on and a woolen blanket as well, and Ethan's got the same. He's got a sheepskin for tonight and also a woolen blanket, and that's our bedding. And so here's my little setup for tonight. Now, when the gold rush happened, you'd find creeks and streams and rivers where they found gold almost within overnight in a way, or within a few weeks. That whole river would be full of tents on its bank, so it became like a little tent city. And what they traditionally used was what's called the calico tent, which was a canvas tent, like an A-frame tent, and you would have seen lots of them along the riverbanks. You see artists' depictions of it from back in the day, but there was a hodgepodge of people who came to the gold fields with different materials. Some had more, some had less, some came with what was on their back, some came in wheelbarrows, some came with horse and cart. So I have no doubt that you would have had similar styled setups for people camped out in a remote little valley like this back in the day with just heritage gear, and that's what I wanted to create for this trip, something a little bit different like that. I reckon I need to collect some firewood. You gonna go for a swim, Ethan? No, not yet. Alright, firewood is ready, camp is set up. I think it's time to get into what we came for and look for some gold. Now, a few things before I start this. I just want to say I'm not a gold prospector, I am just getting into it. I want to give a big shout out to Matt. Thank you very much from Frenchie's Prospecting. He's been giving me a rundown and really helping me learn about how to prospect, where you want to look, that kind of stuff. And it was great catching up with him the other day, and also another fella called Andy, Poverty Prospecting, I think his YouTube channel is. So there's a cool community of YouTubers who do prospecting videos. Again, so I'm not really a prospector, I'm just a guy who loves history, who's just given his hand at a little bit of it and giving it a little bit of a try. So now, you'd think that I would start digging and panning right here in this river, but unfortunately, doing some research and reading into the laws around prospecting and fossicking, this river is out of bounds. You are not allowed to legally fossick here in this river. I've been learning about how many of the rivers and creek systems in Victoria you actually legally are not allowed to gold pan in, which is a shame. This area especially, most of the rivers, main rivers and creeks, you can't do it because this is a well-known gold area with a lot of gold mining history in the area. Now what I can do is further upstream, there is another creek that runs into this creek, and that one, it is legal for me to go gold panning in, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to head up there. So anyway, I reckon it's time to give this gold panning a try and see if I can get onto some glittering gold. Ethan and I are currently walking upstream this little creek, and we've actually just gotten changed. I've got some gaiters on, which I can get wet, and the idea is to walk upstream and see if we can find a good spot to do some prospecting. But alright everyone, so I thought I'd show you what I've got for panning today. This is a vintage gold pan from the 1800s that I collected, and this is what the old fellas would have used to use. Now, I've been doing a lot of reading on gold history here in Australia in preparation for this trip, and basically, you know, a lot of people came out to varying degrees of equipment. So some people came out with what they carried on their back. A lot of the equipment that they used ranged from having a gang of people, you know, mining, to bringing out cradles and lots of pans. But some of the people, because when the gold rush went on, it was gold fever and people just wanted to find gold. People often came up with nothing, and they literally used like washing basins, saucepan lids, even the old hat for panning. That's what I read. So I find that pretty interesting. So look, a lot of them wouldn't have had a lot of gear with them to be able to pan for gold. And that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to see if I can pan for gold. So I'm going to try a few places, but apparently what I've been told, so this bedrock is good because it catches the gold, so the gravel gets caught up in there. But from what I've been told, where you find a bend, you have the inside bend. And apparently gold can often collect in those gravel parts of the inside bend. So I just want it to be known, I don't really know what I'm doing. So I'm just going to give it a good hard crack today and see how I go. Those of you who gold prospect, leave a comment for tips and advice in the comment section, because I am all ears. I'm all up for criticism. I'm not offended at all. No gold! Just going to work this little gravel section on the inside bend here, but what I did bring is two lead balls to chuck in, and if the lead balls are apparently this is how it is, if the lead balls at the bottom of your dish, your pan, sorry, once everything's out, you know that gold is not going to be falling out, because this is lead is a little bit lighter than gold. Nothing. Soup and bread. Woo! Finally! One little specky, flecky speck of gold. You see it? See that? Yeah, I know it's tiny, but it's gold, which means there's gold here. I don't know if you can see. It's a bit hard to see. But that's gold right there. First of all, this is my little glass container, which I'll put the gold in, if you can see there. But what I'm using, because I don't have a snuffer bottle, Alpine Beards Australia sent me out a bunch of beard oil products, and I've used up one of their little beard oils already, but it came with one of these little droppers, and this is great for scooping up the little micro flecks of gold. Got it. There's gold in there. Little fella in here. And away we go. I'm going to keep hunting for gold. Another little flecky of gold right there. And having my little lead ball is a really good trick, because you know if that's still in there, potentially gold should still be in there. Another tiny speck just here. Slim pickings, but it's hard to see because it's not really focusing. A little bit of gold, I'll call that success. Definitely hard work for how little I was getting. I'd love to come back to this creek with someone like Matt from Frenchie's Prospecting, who know what they're doing, and pick their brain on where they reckon you should dig and stuff like that. And I reckon I'd probably get a much better chance of finding gold, more gold that way. But anyway, I'm going to fill this hole in. Look, I don't actually know what the etiquette is around gold prospecting and filling in your holes and stuff like that, but coming from a wild camping background, I come from a leave no trace background, so I just feel better about myself filling in this hole that I've created. Yeah, I don't know if that's what you're meant to do in the gold Foster King community, but it's what I'm going to do. time to do a cook up. First things first, get a fire going. The traditional way. The way the old miners would have done it. Just like that, mate. That's how the old fellas did it. Just got to be a little careful of the fire, because you know, river rocks, they explode, and they've already been popping a bit, so just want to be a bit cautious. Dinner tonight, I've got beef soup. Steak soup with some bread rolls. Just something simple. Something very, very simple. Oh yeah. Which one do you want? Do you want this one? Big day gold pan, eh? Oh, slept pretty hard last night, long and hard. And that's all because I was buggered from panning. I'm sure this morning if the old fellas were living out here, they'd be straight at it again, trying to find their fortune. I don't know about myself. What I am going to do is I'm going to have a cook up. Going to have a nice cook up of sausages and beans, which would be a bit of a luxury if you were out here in the gold fields back in the day, but still going to enjoy it. Oh, woo, yeah. Ah, that's what I needed. Ah. All right, German sausage for brekkie. With tin beans. Tin beans are really around more in the very early 1900s when that started coming into Australia.
In fire. Dad, someone said quartz are a lot of money.
Is it good? I love baked beans in the morning. So anyway, some thoughts on gold panning on these trips. It definitely adds a whole nother layer to the adventures coming out here. Don't judge me too harshly. I am definitely a complete newbie at this. I've got so much to learn, and especially learning like where you'd find gold and how to read a river, and choosing the inside bend and where to dig and all that stuff. It kind of goes over my head. I've got a lot to learn, and I hope to get into it more and gain some more knowledge. But I'm just doing this really because of the history side of it. And reading on the history before this trip, it was interesting reading about how, every man and his dog was searching for gold. But you'd have fellas who had a real knack for it, and they knew where to dig. And they'd often break out from the main camps and go to new rivers and creeks to find their own little quiet secret spot. And they just had a knack for being able to find gold and build their fortune very quickly. Others went out there with not much idea at all, and they were kind of, scoping out where other people were digging and just following along. And a lot of the time people didn't have any luck, and they made nothing, and that probably would have been me if I was living back in the old days. So it was a hard life, it was a rough life. Some made their fortune like that, others spent years digging and but made barely anything. Another little point I should add is you often hear me call the people who were gold panning, the people who were mining as diggers. Now a lot of people say, oh no, diggers refers to those people digging the trenches in World War One. Well, diggers actually originally came from the 1850s for those who were digging for gold, and then that terminology stuck and was used for our soldiers that we look back on. Now it would have been a hard life for the diggers, a really hard life, living out in the bush, no medical care, the dangers of mining, all that kind of stuff. And in fact, gold fever took a lot of people's lives because there was a lot of dangers out there. And I found this old poem written by a grieving widow, which I thought I'd leave you with. Especially the last line of the poem kind of really captures what it must have been like for people back in the day. And it goes, gold cost his life, gold cost my home. Gold cost me comfort, peace and bliss. Gold racks my brain, my senses roam. Gold, Silas children, cost me this. It cannot back return me aught. We were not formed to love and part. 'Twas glittering gold your father sought, and gold will break your mother's heart. And that sums up the hardships of the old diggers, the families of the diggers, and the people who went out on the frontier, the old pioneers. Man, may we respect their memory. It's no secret that gold helped build this country. So much of our fortune has been based off this mineral that often drove men mad. But to think about how those early men camped out in the wilderness, far away from any civilization and help, is inspiring. It's hard enough to get to these places today with a modern car on four-wheel drive tracks, but to think of these pioneers cutting through the bush to survey a new river makes you realise how hardy and committed those old timers really were. Alright everyone, these diggers are heading back to civilization after not striking a fortune. Otherwise, thanks for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't. Leave me a like and a comment, guys. I really enjoy doing this and I'm very thankful for everyone who watches it. It's been a good trip. I'll see you on the next adventure.